Universal church history is mutually connected with all the other theological disciplines, benefiting from the results of their research and in turn offering the results of its own research to the other disciplines. The theological disciplines closest to universal church history are, first of all, those with a historical character: patrology, Byzantinology, the history of dogmas, the history of the local Orthodox churches, Christian archaeology, Slavic studies, Oriental studies, and then the other fields of theological study, both biblical and systematic, as well as practical. As for the auxiliary disciplines in the strict sense, universal church history makes use of the complementary sciences of general history, such as classical and modern philology, for understanding the language of documents, paleography, for deciphering ancient texts, epigraphy, for the study of inscriptions, numismatics, for the study of coins and old medals, heraldry, for the study of coats of arms, diplomatics, for the study of official documents, sigillography, for the study of seals, archaeology, for the study of ancient material evidence, art history, for the study of the development of artistic styles, the philosophy of history, for the study of the nature and meaning of history, and historical geography, for the systematic study of the historical development of a particular geographical area. Among all the auxiliary historical disciplines, chronology, or the study of the calculation of time, also called the backbone of history, is of special importance for universal church history, especially because this discipline studies historical events from different periods, which must be presented within a coherent chronology. Throughout history, people have calculated time according to different criteria, thus developing their own chronological systems. Hey, check the pinned comment. I left something cool for you down there. The most important chronological system on which Christian chronology would later be based was the chronology used by the Romans, who calculated time from the founding of the city of Rome, ab urbe condita or post urbem conditam, which began in the year 753 before the Christian era. Thus, the year 753 of the Roman era became the first year of the Christian era. The second important chronology for universal church history is the one used by the ancient Greeks, namely the era of the Olympiads, which began in the year 778 before the Christian era. The first Olympiad, that is, the athletic games organized by the ancient Greeks, took place in the year 778 BC, but the Olympiads were held every 4 years, so that the date of July 1st of the 195th Olympiad coincided with July 1st of the first year of the Christian era. Alongside Greek and Roman chronology, universal church history also takes into account the chronologies of the other civilizations with which the history of the church came into contact. First Jewish chronology, then Egyptian, Syrian, Armenian chronology, and others. Among these, the most important is Jewish chronology, according to which the years were counted from the creation of the world. For the Jews, the creation of the world took place in the year 3761 BC. In the West, the creation of the world was placed in the year 3943 BC, while in the East it was placed in the year 5492 BC, in Alexandria in 5508 BC, and in Constantinople in 5509 BC, this last calculation being the most widespread in the Orthodox world. In addition to these chronologies, universal church history also takes into account local chronologies, such as the Spanish era, which began in the year 38 BC, when Spain was occupied by the Romans, the Mauritanian era, which began in the year 40 BC, when Mauritania became a Roman province, the era of the Seleucids in Syria, beginning in the year 311/312 BC, the year of the Battle of Gaza, and others. Among the newer chronological systems, universal church history also takes into account the Mohammedan era, or the Hijra, which begins in AD 622, when Muhammad departed from Mecca to Medina. During the first centuries of church history, Christians believed that the second coming of the Savior Jesus Christ was near. For this reason, they considered that there was no need to have a chronology of their own. Thus, only at the beginning of the 6th century AD did they come to believe that time should not be calculated according to events other than the process of their salvation in Jesus Christ. Therefore, they began to count the years from the birth of the Savior Jesus Christ, which led to the creation of the Christian era. The one who calculated the Christian era was the monk Dionysius Exiguus, or Dionysius the Little, who died in 540 and was originally from Scythia Minor, or Dacia Pontica, later Dobrogea, around the year 525 or 526. For this reason, the chronology he proposed was also called the Dionysian era. According to the calculation of the monk Dionysius, the Savior Jesus Christ was born in the year 753 from the founding of Rome, so that this year became the first year of the Christian era, a chronology that spread throughout the entire Christian world. Later, it was found that the birth of the Savior Jesus Christ had taken place much earlier than the year 753, since it was proven that King Herod, who sought to kill the divine child, died in the year 750. Therefore, the birth according to the flesh of the Son of God must have taken place at least 1 or even 2 years before Herod's death. In other words, the Christian era is delayed by at least 4 or even 5 years, but when this was discovered, it was no longer possible to correct this difference. Thus, the year 753 from the founding of Rome has remained in universal history as the year of the birth of the Savior Jesus Christ, down to the present day. At the time when Christian chronology appeared, the Byzantine Empire was still using the Roman calendar, adopted in the year 45 BC by the general and Pontifex Maximus Julius Caesar, who died in 44 BC. From this comes the name Julian calendar. It was based on the calculations of the astronomer Sosigenes of Alexandria. This calendar was based on the principle that a solar year, that is, the period between 2 spring equinoxes, lasts 365.25 days, namely a normal year of 365 days, to which 1 additional day is added every 4 years. Such a year is called a leap year. The 365.25 days of the year were divided into 12 unequal months, which still bear, for the most part, Roman names. The calendar adopted by Julius Caesar proved to be one of the best, but over time it was discovered that, in reality, this calendar falls behind the solar year by 11 minutes and 14 seconds each year, a difference that cannot be recovered only through leap years. Thus, approximately every 128 years, the Julian calendar falls behind by 1 day in relation to the astronomical solar calendar, that is, in relation to the exact period of the Earth's rotation around the Sun. This discrepancy has caused the Julian calendar, from the time of Julius Caesar until today, to fall behind by a difference of 13 days. The first correction of the Julian calendar took place in the Western Church under Pope Gregory XIII, who reigned from 1572 to 1585, and who, in the year 1582, ordered the removal of the 10-day difference that had accumulated up to that time in the Julian calendar in relation to the solar calendar. Thus, the Gregorian calendar appeared, which is nothing other than the corrected Julian calendar. In the Orthodox East, the uncorrected Julian calendar remained in use until after the First World War, that is, until the period when all majority Orthodox countries adopted the civil Gregorian calendar, following the recommendation of the League of Nations in Geneva, as follows: Bulgaria on April 14, 1914, the Kingdom of Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia on January 27, 1917, Bolshevik Russia on February 17, 1918, Romania on April 1st, 1919, and Greece on March 1st, 1923. The question of correcting the Julian calendar had been raised within the Orthodox Churches as early as the second half of the 19th century, but only the Inter-Orthodox Congress, convened in Istanbul by the Ecumenical Patriarch Meletius IV Metaxakis, who reigned from 1921 to 1923, between May 10th and June 8th, 1923, recommended to all Orthodox churches the correction of the Julian calendar beginning that very autumn, and not the adoption of the Gregorian calendar. Most of the Orthodox churches corrected the calendar with the following exceptions: the Patriarchate of Jerusalem, the Russian Patriarchate, the Serbian Patriarchate, the Patriarchate of Georgia, the Orthodox Church of Poland, and the monasteries of Mount Athos, which are under the jurisdiction of the Ecumenical Patriarchate. Until a common calendar is adopted by all the Orthodox churches, they celebrate the fixed date feasts such as the Nativity of the Lord, Theophany, the Circumcision, the Meeting of the Lord, or the Transfiguration, as well as all the feasts dedicated to the Mother of God and to all the saints, with a difference of 13 days. All the feasts connected with the Paschal cycle, however, are celebrated according to the uncorrected Julian calendar in order to celebrate at least the greatest feast of the Christian Church, the resurrection of the Lord, in common. Another aspect related to Christian chronology, which universal church history takes into account, concerns the beginning of the year, and especially the beginning of the church year, which begins on September 1st. After the adoption of the Julian calendar in the year 45 BC, the Emperor Octavian Augustus, who ruled from 31 BC to AD 14, introduced the system of the indition, that is, a period of 15 years for collecting taxes throughout the empire. The indiction, which remained in use in the Byzantine empires, began in the autumn, in the month of September. The Holy Emperor Constantine the Great, who reigned from 306 to 337, institutionalized the system of the indiction, which began on September 1st. Thus, the Church established September 1st as the beginning of the church year, the very day on which Saint Dionysius the Little, the creator of Christian chronology, is commemorated. The custom of beginning the year on January 1st became widespread in the East only beginning in the 16th century. Besides the church year, in the Orthodox Church there is also the liturgical year, which begins with the Feast of Pascha. Under the influence of Judeo-Christian tradition, the Roman calendar adopted the system of the 7-day week, which, according to Jewish tradition, began with Sunday, while Saturday was the day of rest. In the Christian tradition, Sunday remains the first day of the week, but because it is the day on which the Lord rose from the dead, it becomes the day of rest. If you would like to support the work of this channel, I invite you to join our Patreon community. From now on, I will continue the Universal Church History series there, posting lessons and interesting presentations, along with more translations from the words of the Holy Fathers, readings, Orthodox teachings, and even detailed lives of saints. Your support helps me continue this work and prepare more extensive, better organized, and more useful materials for those who wish to understand more deeply the faith, history, and tradition of the Church. The link to Patreon is in the description and in the first comment. Thank you very much to everyone who supports the work of this channel. Please write your baptismal name in the comments so that I may remember you in my prayers.